Hi, I'm Chris Stirewalt, and it's time for Power Play. Hello, Internet, and happy 2015. We are glad you stopped by, because here's what's what. What's what in Washington is that with a lot of noise, a lot of sound, and a lot of fury signifying nothing, a group of conservative members of the House of Representatives tried to humiliate House Speaker John Boehner as he was standing for his third term. And guess what happened? They didn't get it. But sometimes failing tells us about the future, and it also tells us about how they'll try it next time, because you know there's going to be a next time. People who know about how those things go include Joe Listingi. Joe is a Democrat, and you can hire him if you're a Democrat. You can probably hire him if you're a Republican, too, to pursue your particular political causes at the Chatterton Group. Matt Schlapp is a Republican, and Matt Schlapp remembers when Republican coups were successful, right? Matt Schlapp is a principal at Cove Strategies. He is a former top advisor to George W. Bush, and all-around good guy. Okay, not that, and you are too. We'll say that for the record.
You advise George Bush?
This is great. So here's the thing, Matt. I want to start with you. In 1998, an insurgency worked and toppled Newt Gingrich. Now, Newt Gingrich was in a much weaker condition. He was in a more, he had some ethics questions about books, and there was But Newt Gingrich in 1998 took out.
That's right.
In a similar but slightly different fashion. That one worked, but nobody ever saw it coming. This one, everybody saw coming, but it didn't work.
Well, it's actually pretty similar, Chris. If you think about it, there was a pre-coup coup, which didn't work, where a bunch of folks on the fourth floor of Cannon, which we affectionately called the Wacko Hallway. I was in there, and I would consider myself one of them, and I still do. But there was an attempt to knock out Gingrich and other folks in leadership, and they fell short.
And this, by the way, were people like Tom Coburn, who was in the in the House from Oklahoma then. The people like Steve Largent, Shadegg.
That's right. Yeah, a big group of folks that were the kind of the rabble-rousers back in 1994 when they were first elected and took the majority. But it was delayed, but eventually they did get the changes they wanted at the leadership table. So the concern for John Boehner and his crew is, yes, they sustained a good victory yesterday, but what does this mean going forward? I think the next huge flashpoint is, what is the strategy around deciding whether or not to fund or defund DHS vis-a-vis the president's executive overreach,
which is about 6 weeks away.
That's right.
They've set, Joe, a timeline for 6 weeks. They built it into the hideous piece of legislation they crafted at the end of the year as basically an excuse note to the nation. And in it, they said, and we'll have the fight about immigration. The president and his temporary executive amnesty. So they're going to come back and do this in February. These conservatives want to punish Boehner on this. Does this increase, do you think, the chances of a government shutdown or a shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security?
I think no, I actually don't think it does. And I'm going to take a bit of an odd stance on that. But the reason is I think the majority is so large that Boehner has been able to sort of take this wing of the party and put them off to the side. They can be loud and they can say what they want to say, but his core group is still together, and I think they can still navigate the waters to get things done. Where this is I'm going to take a little bit of a different turn on the political side. What's going to be interesting is you're going to have this fraction over here now recruiting candidates to run for 16 and against establishment candidates like we saw in 14, but on a much larger scale now, and now they've got some notoriety with this attempted coup. So politically on the campaign side, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out as well.
You can't beat somebody with nobody.
That's right.
And the reality for John Boehner has been all along that no matter how much the conservatives have grumbled, there isn't anybody. Now, Jeb Hensarling's been mentioned from time to time. Paul Ryan's been mentioned a couple of times. Neither of them seem particularly willing.
They don't want to do it.
They don't want to take on John Boehner. So the reality for Boehner, Kevin McCarthy's future may look more uncertain, but for Boehner, if no one is there to take him on that can spread the coalition out beyond just the right, nobody's going to take him out.
Do you know why they don't want to take him on, Chris?
Why?
There's a simple reason.
Why?
It's become a perfectly horrible job with a fantastic office.
It is a nice office. It's really nice.
They all know that they would have to do the same thing, which is deal with President Obama in the Oval Office and deal with pretty much Harry Reid in the Senate. Yes, Mitch McConnell now has over 50 votes, but he doesn't have 60, which means they still have to get Democrats in the Senate to get anything passed. It's going to be very hard to get things passed through both chambers. The base of my party and conservatives, of which I am one, are very cantankerous and frustrated that we can't make more progress, but it is the way the government is designed, and there's not only so much that can be done over these 2 years. You're right. Yeah. We're building up to 16. Whether or not the base of the party will have the patience to understand it's going to take another election to kind of get what they want is to be determined. But the reason why Paul Ryan doesn't run, the reason why Jeb Hensling doesn't run, is they know what the dynamics of the job are, and that ain't easy.
That's how Matt actually became the head of the American Conservative Union. It was a very similar process. Guys, we thank you very much for making time for us today. And you, Internet, thank you for making time for us today. We'll see you back real soon.